The Paul Leslie Interviews.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's my extreme pleasure to welcome this very talented man. He's a performer, a pianist, a recording artist, an entertainer. He's also somewhat of a musical archivist, bringing styles from different eras back to life on his recordings and in his performances. It is an honor to welcome Barry Cuda.
Hello, how you doing?
All right, great to have you back.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, which
Live.
I guess I'm back because this is your place.
Yeah, this is my place.
I want to kind of go back a little bit. Tell us about Ray Parker.
Ray Parker, not the Commodore's guy, if that's where it was. Ray Parker was my piano teacher when I was a kid, and he taught by day and had a jazz trio and a quartet up in Pensacola where I grew up. So when I was a kid, when my interest would wane, my parents would talk to Ray about arranging something that I was interested in, like the Baby Elephant Walk or the 12th Street Rag, something like that, to get me back interested into doing it instead of just classical piano. Even though, he was a jazz pianist by trade, he loved his classical, and classical training is part and parcel for most kids' piano training. So Ray was a good guy. He passed away about 10 years ago, and I was one of his students that went on to be a performer.
What caused your interest in ragtime music?
Back to Ray Parker, I saw a Danny Thomas show, and they had a cute little Asian girl that was just amazing. All the old people on that, and they were showing her off, and she was playing the 12th Street Rag by Uday Bowman. And I thought that was real cool on TV. This would have been 1963. So I was trying to figure it out on the piano, and my mom saw me trying to figure it out, and she asked Ray Parker, my teacher, to do a arrangement for me. And I did, and pretty soon I memorized it. It was simple. If I didn't have the octave stretch or 10th stretch you need for ragtime and stride on the bass. So Ray arranged one for my little hands, and I played it, and pretty soon I was the most popular kid at my elementary school. All the girls were wanting me to play.
Does that tune ever make its way into your sets?
No, it actually doesn't. 12th Street Rag is kind of commercial rag, and then from there I branched into Scott Joplin and James Scott and Joseph Lamb and other guys who were more serious classical ragtime composers. That piece is pretty interesting, but it's basically a Tin Pan Alley rag commercial.
Knocky Parker from Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys mentored you. What was the best lesson you got from him?
I don't know. Probably no one lesson other than that his enthusiasm. He was a pianist for Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys and the light-crusted Doughboys that preceded them. And he was a professor at the University of South Florida in Tampa. I went to school in St. Pete at Eckerd. I was learning this music and went over to check him out because when I realized he was, this is back in the mid-'70s, that he was one of the pianists for my interest had expanded out of ragtime at that point and was into early boogie woogie and barrelhouse and different, roots piano forms. And I found out that Knocky was doing the Western Swing, so I went over and met up with him, and then he was like enthusiastic about everything I was playing. Then I started playing, I think, the Cow Blues, as opposed to Cow Boogie. Cow Blues with that riff, and Knocky, thought that was just way cool. So his enthusiasm with this root stuff, and that a younger generation was picking up on it.
What inspired you to travel to Chicago?
See some of the guys, who are still alive, primarily Little Brother Montgomery. Most of the guys had passed away by the time I got up there in 77. But Sunnyland Slim was still alive, and Little Brother Montgomery, and I was just interested in seeing them, to learn from them piano, but also just see, the overall blues thing, the electric blues, Muddy Waters, stuff like that. So
you really studied the old piano blues. What quality do they have that you like so much?
I just think there's a naturalness to them. these guys were playing it for the love of it. I don't think that necessarily for the money. The money hadn't seemed to corrupt the process. They're doing it because they love it. And that's what I do, too. Fighting a good fight down here in Key West amongst a bunch of the zeitgeist down here in Key West seems to be Buffett, country, blue, country, Caribbean, stuff like that. And that's all well and good, but I still like the root stuff because I think it's pure. And I think it's like, I don't know if it's Nietzsche who said it, you need to know your history to know where you're going and not repeat the same mistakes. But I just like the link. My new CD, in fact, is about that because I'm down here in Key West. We're kind of in the middle of a whole major, probably the most influential area, fertile-wise, of musical evolution, at least in the Western world. The Cubans, this European tradition and African traditions via the slaves came together in Cuba, and then from there branched out to different points down to, the habanera, this rhythm. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. That thing happening, it's called a habanero. Habanero is the pepper. Habanera is the basis of Cuban music. It's called habanero because it's from Havana, and it goes down to Argentina. It becomes a tango. It migrates from Cuba up to New Orleans and becomes the blues rumba, Professor Longhair. And then it works its way into 20th century hound dog. Ain't no but a hound dog onto the boardwalk. And that's just one, all these rhythms and stuff, like the merging of two continents, Europe and Africa, happened in Cuba and in Haiti. Then it was called Dominica, the whole island of Haiti and Dominican Republic was just one thing. And from there it just kind of sprang. It gets up into the Gulf Coast, spreads. And, it's not that, I'm oversimplifying it. What happened is really the Spaniards, Christopher Columbus discovered the New World, and Cuba was his first landfall. So they colonized Cuba, and they wanted slaves to work, for tobacco, for sugar cane, and coffee. And the Portuguese controlled the slave trade. So the deal was the Spaniards in 1492 was also the end of the Inquisition. It was the beginning of the Inquisition. It was the end of Moorish. They finally got rid of the Moors, the Islam, after almost 700 years of their invasion. So the last thing that the Cubans, the Spaniards wanted in Cuba for slaves were Moorish Islamic slaves. So the Portuguese controlled the slave trade at the time. So they said, well, we got these other slaves from way down there in the Congo, in the jungle. Congo didn't exist then. All the Bantu-speaking people, and said, and we've also converted them to Catholicism. So the Cubans took those, and down in the jungle, there are all these dead trees lying around, and they have this percussive, drumming tradition that's been going on for centuries already. And what happened is the slaves that were from sub-Saharan Africa, Mali, Senegal, the Ivory Coast, those slaves were bought by the British and came to the colonies. And there's more of a influence of a stringed instrument that the Islam had introduced to Africa. So those slaves went up to the cotton colonies, and what happened is they kind of merged in New Orleans and stuff. And so you've got your blues, your 12-bar blues and stuff is linked back pretty much to Mali and sub-Saharan stuff. So it all kind of, it's like it's complicated, but it really, to me, it comes together in the Caribbean and the extended Caribbean. That's why I call my new CD New World Blues Roots. And I've got, to me, Cuba and Key West kind of like the center of the, geographically of this whole area. You've got, like, up in New Orleans and Houston, you've got the development of blues and jazz. And that's, because of stuff coming from the slaves, the sub-Saharan slaves, in the colonies in the United, 13 original colonies, and you've got all these other really intricate rhythms. That's why the music's so interesting in Cuba, rhythmically, is because it's coming from Africa, where they have polyrhythmic drumming. So anyway, what happened is you get all these great rhythms, and they're still influencing Western music now, pop music. So anyway, what I did is on my new CD, I took the conceit of let's simplify it. Let's have one instrument representing the old world, Europe, and one instrument representing the old world, Africa. So I took a conga. I used Professor Longhair's old conga player who's still alive, Alfred, Uganda Roberts on congas, and I played piano representing Europe and conga representing the rhythmic percussive instruments of Africa. So Key West, I've been here in Key West so long, it seems like I'm a keeper of the flame, you know, but at the same time, it's real interesting to be in the right area. I'm learning about the history of this stuff, you know. It's like, yeah, since I know better where I came from by knowing 400 or 500 years of history behind me. And like I said, back to that thing, I love it because I think it's just real pure music, and it's beautiful.
Fascinating stuff. You mentioned Mali a little while ago. It's true that you went there.
Yeah, I took my daughter there. It was a real cool festival. It's actually kind of in limbo right now. They moved it down to, Burkina Faso, I think, this past year, out of Mali because of the Al-Qaeda coming down and screwing everything up. The Tuaregs, the blue men of the desert, kind of trusted the Al-Qaeda to come down, and they didn't realize that they were going to ban music, and that was probably a big mistake they made, you know, because at that point they weren't too happy. What happened is basically when they got rid of Gaddafi, a lot of the Arab Spring, this stuff, you know, a lot of the Al-Qaeda had kind of free reign to roam around, and they came in from the east of Mali, Nigeria, and places like that, and came over to and took over, you know, the government. I mean, it was really strange because we were in Timbuktu, Mali, which is this old, very historic learning center of Islam, and they've got all these incredible old manuscripts and all this stuff dating 500, 600 years ago. And Al-Qaeda came in and started destroying this and banning music. So it was big mistake.
Yeah. You also mentioned a conga player that appears on the album, Alfred Uganda Roberts. What were your thoughts on using him for the album?
Let's put Uganda through the hoops, so to speak, and see if it works on the stuff that was before Professor Longhair, that where festivals come from. Let's take it back another 1,500 years ago and see if the congas work. And it actually does. The CD, New World Blues Roots, some of my friends have pointed out, more musically scholars, that at first they think the piano doesn't need the congas, but they say, you know, the more I listen to it, the more it does fit and it works. So, I mean, that's good.
What is the best thing about being Barry Cuda?
I did it sideways. I don't know. It's you know, I think everybody wants to do what they love. If you can get paid to do what you love, that's it. I got tired of the road and moved here, and now I'd actually like to get back on the road some, because I love living and eating in Europe and spreading the boogie and the blues gospel, but at the same time, the road is tough, you know, so it's nice to be here. It's career purgatory in a way, but purgatory never looks so nice. It's palm trees and beautiful ocean.
So my last question is just kind of open-ended. Whatever you'd like to say to the listeners.
Know where you came from. Learn to think for yourself. Don't buy into stuff that multinational corporations are trying to sell you. Choose your own path. Learn to think for yourself.
One more question. Who is Barry Cuda?
Who is Barry Cuda? It's me, the pianimal.
All right, sir. Great pleasure.
Take care.